see what the information is there. But great. I think we've got 2 minutes here. We've got plenty of participants to move forward. So I'll just kick it off to Riley. Riley will start with his presentation, and then I will do the live demonstration, and then we'll follow by a Q&A. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. So a quick introduction for the two of us, your presenters. So my name is Riley Smith. I manage our mining, tunneling, and monitoring groups at Trimble, and very excited to be presenting here today with Loudon, and I'll let him introduce himself as well.
Yeah, thanks, Riley. My name's Loudon Greaser. I joined Trimble about 2 years ago in the mining group. So I'm a mining product manager here. Before worked at a large open pit copper mine in Arizona called Morenci, and then joined a software company after that before joining Trimble. So super excited to see everybody here and excited to bring you guys some new products to look at.
Perfect. Well, we'll kick it off. So, as Loudon mentioned, we're going to be talking today about Trimble Mine Insights software, a new product that Trimble has brought to the market, and we announced this late last year. And we're also going to be talking about how this fits in with other products that you might be using and Trimble products as well for specific workflows. So a little context on Trimble Mine Insights. So this is a cloud-based software focused on taking AI-powered analytics to optimize mining and quarrying operations. And that can be through the full operational life cycle. And we'll show different ways of how this is adding value to your operations. So how does that work? So we think about the Trimble in the system for mining. We have typically sensors and tools for data collection, such as scanners with drones, mobile mapping systems, GPS, machines, and a variety of other tools. But we also need to process that data, maybe even combine it, and using tools like Trimble Business Center or other software to turn it into a chunk of data or some type of data that can then be used for analysis and other things. And that's where Trimble Mine Insights falls in to the equation. So it takes that different data, geospatial data especially, and produces analytics and insights from it for mining operations. And then that can be used downstream in other operations, whether it's in the planning software, dispatch, scheduling, operations, and a variety of other areas. And one thing to note is we've connected all of this workflow through the Trimble Connect common data environment. So you can collect with your Trimble sensor in the field. You can send that wirelessly to Trimble Business Center through the Connect environment to process, and then on into Trimble Mine Insights, which is also has an integration with Trimble Connect. The Trimble Mine Insights product is sliced into 3 different packages. And we've designed these for specific operational areas of the mining workflow. So today we're going to be focused on the first one, which is site analytics, very much focused on operation analytics and surveying. So a lot to do with volumetrics, material movement, and so forth. But there's 2 other packages which we'll be hosting webinars in the future on as well. So stay tuned for those. So we have the drill and blast package, which as it implies, very focused on the design, execution, and also analysis of blasting. And then the geotechnical, which combines different analytics for geotechnical and geology operations. So today we'll focus on number 1 being site analytics. So that site analytics package for Trimble Mine Insights is very much about that raw volumetric and earth moving data and getting different insights from it. There are 3 different tools in that package we believe are very high value. They're not the only tools, but they're the ones that we're going to especially highlight today. So the first one is the haul road compliance tool, being able to check on the conformance of your haul road network and then dispatch equipment appropriately to fix issues. The second is the stockpile and inventory management, where we're able to automatically extract stockpile data and then apply a time-based inventory management for reconciliation. And then the final set of tools is around floor and grade control, which we're more using to track progress, to design, to plan, and the over and under dig volumes as well along with that. And we'll be showing these all later in a demo. The first workflow that we want to focus on is the haul road conformance workflow. So much as I showed before in the diagram, we have a nice sequential workflow for this tool. So using data that's collected. You may already have some of these tools like a Trimble mobile mapping system or a drone collecting data, processing that into a usable deliverable, typically point clouds and ortho photos, and then taking that into Trimble Mine Insights where we can run the Haul Road AI tool, which will automatically extract, quantify, and categorize your haul road network based on specific parameters around safety and design conformance. But it doesn't stop there. You can then take that data via Trimble Connect into an actionable software in the field. So that could be your survey software like Trimble Access, but it could also be onto a machine like Trimble Earthworks for motograders and dozers and excavators, where you can actually then action on the areas of your haul road that might be out of tolerance. So a little bit more information on the mobile mapping systems I'll talk about here for a moment at the start of that workflow. So you can see an example of that here up in the right-hand corner. So it allows you to collect large amounts of reality capture data very safely, and you don't need to stop traffic, which is quite critical in the mining operation. So you can run this on a truck, like a supervisor truck, for example, capture data across your entire haul road network, and it's not it won't be inhibited by things like strong wind and so forth, and so you'll be able to collect that data in very many environments and then process that through Trimble Business Center, and you get different data like you see here. And of course, we're going to be talking about haul roads, but there's a variety of other applications you can use that data for. It's not just one and done. You can use it for inspection, asset management, road management, stockpiles, and a variety of other things. So once we have that data, we've processed it through Trimble Business Center. This is where the Haul Road AI tool and Trimble Mine Insights really brings the story together. So it will automatically extract your haul roads like you can see here on the right-hand side. So this is different parameters of our haul roads, including things like center line, widths, grades, crossfall, safety berms, and potholes, rutting, and a variety of other things. And these all really work together to do three things: to assess, especially for the safety, the quality of the roads based on design parameters, optimize cost, especially when you're looking at autonomous operations and you're running haul trucks up and down these. You want to know that your roads are designed as efficiently, or to optimize the trucks to be as efficient as possible for things like fuel consumption and tire wear. And then allowing to be more proactive on maintenance of roads instead of addressing a problem when it's already a problem, finding that out sooner, addressing it before, let's say, a machine runs into an issue like a big pothole and so forth. And then the final part of that workflow is leveraging that on an actual in-field action system. So in this case, we're showing Trimble Earthworks, which is our on-machine guidance system, and that can be used on graders, dozers, excavators, and loaders. So you can take that information from Trimble Mine Insights, bring it into the machine system, and actually action on the Mine Insights data. Now, the next one we'll look at is the stockpile inventory management workflow. Very similar on the start end of this, collecting your data with your tool of choice. So a lot of the time I've seen drones are used for this, but it could also be mobile mapping systems, tripod-based terrestrial scanners, and a variety of other tools. Processing that. And then in Mine Insights, we have several tools, both AI assisted, AI automatic, and manual, to extract the stockpile information, add material information to it, and a variety of other parameters, and then attach that to a time-based inventory dashboard. So not only are you speeding up your volume information by having AI assisted tools, but also being able to track that over time and seeing the quantities and the value you have in your inventory. So this tool is quite powerful. As I mentioned, there's really three steps to this. There's an automatic detection. And like with any AI tool, it may not be 100% detect all of your stockpiles. Sometimes you have very irregular stockpiles that are very hard to determine, but it'll detect a good portion of them. And then we have a AI assisted tool, which can then help you detect these other stockpiles that have been missed. And then finally, if you do need it, there is then a manual tool as well for any of the last 1 or 2%. But these Stockpile information, of course, is the geometric information, so the location, the volumes, and so forth. But we can associate material types, densities, tonnage, variety of properties to this, which then is associated to a history tracking and inventory reports. Moving on, the third set of workflows that we'll talk about here is around grade control and design conformance. Especially important when you're trying to know that you've hit your plan, your design limits, your toes, and your finals, to know that you can move on from that section to the next, or start your next benching exercise. Same idea here. Collect that data with your same tools, whether it's drones or other systems, and process it, and then run the various grade control tools like the cut and fill mapping, the floor control tools in Trimble Mine Insights, and take that out as typically CAD files or other files into actionable systems. For example, if it's for visual checks, we can use Trimble Sight Vision with the augmented reality to visually check in the field. Apologies, everyone. I think my headphones cut off, but we're back. Loudon, give me a thumbs up that I'm back. Yep, we're good. Apologize for that. All right, so the infield action with tools like Trimble Sight Vision and Trimble SiteWorks for supervisors. So what that looks like in Mine Insights is we have floor control tools to take that as-built surface, look at predictive conditions of that, especially if you're incorporating this with drill and blast data, but compare it against your actual versus your design, and then manage that over time. So seeing how that's changed. And it's a good indication too of if the operators are hitting limits as they should be, and then feeding that information back to them in a timely manner. On the cut and fill side of world, so of course we can take design, 3D design like a surface model, and compare it to the actual and get your cut and fill parameters, and you can of course change this. But one of the powerful tools is also incorporating the visualization of the block model to see your pit progression. So not only are we looking at just purely the volumetric change, but also looking at how that relates to the planned block model, which is very important for your reconciliation operations. And then on the infield action side, so we can take that information and visualize it using augmented reality, such as in the Sight Vision tool. So this is a GPS-enabled tool with your mobile phone or tablet to visualize information such as a design limits and actual limits in the field. So instead of having to necessarily go out and just place stakes and say, okay, here's our limits, here's where we didn't, you can visually see that using this tool. So it's great for spot checking around the operations, and then using that to plan for future movement of equipment. If you need something a little more high accuracy and you need to actually be measuring and looking for different things like cut and fill and spot checking, for example, and measuring grades, you can use the Trimble SiteWorks system with that information and go out and spot check and look around the operation using the information that you've got from Trimble Mine Insights, such as, okay, this is what the floor control map looked like. We can now spot check that around the operation and then plan our shovels and our equipment accordingly. So those are the three big workflows that we're going to demonstrate today. Loudon's going to demonstrate that here in a minute. A little bit more information on the software before we get into the demonstration and how it's licensed, and also for you to be aware of all the other information that is available to you. So in terms of licensing, the subscriptions are in line with the packages that we mentioned earlier. So we have the three packages being Site Analytics, Drill and Blast, and Geotechnical package. So those are each a subscription. Now associated to them is an amount of data. And so if you're a smaller operation and maybe you're not processing or needing as much data as often, we have the 150 package up to unlimited, which could be for bigger operations that are continuously turning over drone data and scanning data and other types of information. So these are two things that you need to be consider as the capabilities you want and the amount of data that you're going to be uploading into the software every year. We do also have an all-in-one package, which combines all three of these three capabilities, so you can get the best of all three worlds. And then, of course, you can add in your other Trimble products as accordingly, depending on your operations. If you need guidance systems for drilling or excavation, you need monitoring systems or survey software and hardware. And I'll just note that this is available as an annual subscription only. After this webinar, if you find that you didn't get enough information, there is a lot out on the web that you can find. So we have a website, a info and spec sheet that gives a little more detail on the capabilities, and a great overview video that dives into some of these workflows. If you are interested to get hands-on experience with this, we have the ability to give trial and demo licenses. So I would encourage you to contact us. The best way to do that is either through your local Trimble dealer, or you can go on to our website and the Trimble Geospatial website, look for Mine Insights, and there's a great contact us link there, and you can get direct engagement from the Trimble team. So with that, I'm going to pause here and we're going to switch over to Loudon. He's going to now take the slide content that I've presented here and turn it into reality and actually give you a demo of Trimble Mine Insights.
Thanks, Riley. Can you guys see my screen? Or Riley, can you see my screen?
Yep, all good.
Great. Great. So one thing I will do as well is I will start this poll that we discussed earlier. So just give me a second while I get this going. Just to get some more information to kind of tailor this demonstration to you guys. I'm launching the poll now. We have a couple questions here really about biggest challenges regarding insight or mine site infrastructure, and then how you currently manage haul road maintenance, right? Is it more spot checks? We've got to support equipment roaming around, fixing potholes, things like that, manual inspections. What are your biggest, time constraints, things like that. If you want to enter in anything in the other category as well, start typing it out for us. If you have some unique challenges that maybe we can address or help with, that's something, this information is crucial for us to kind of understand what goes on in your guys' world. So appreciate all the answers in the poll. What I'll do is I'll just keep this running. So feel free to think about your answer or add to it or whatnot. I'll keep it running while we're going, and then maybe at the end of our presentation here, where we have some time for questions and answers, we can kind of go over the answers to these polls together. So if you see my screen right now, you'll see that this is the demo environment. This is our office here in Westminster. This is where I place kind of these demo packages, so to speak. So these are each of our three different packages that Riley mentioned earlier, right? We've got site analytics, drill and blast, geotech. I'll dive in here. This is, in terms of this is how it looks in more of a demo environment for us. But for you guys, what this will look like is that your sites that you generate might be different pits that you have on site, different mine sites available to you. And then when you dive into it, this is where your data upload projects get created. So you can see here, once I dive into that site, I have all of these different projects here available for me to actually use. So the first thing I'm going to start out with is that Haul Road AI tool. So I've got quarries and I've got mines. I'll start out here with the mining one first. But we've got this nice pit here within Trimble Mine Insights that was brought in using drone data. If I navigate to 3D, you can see how deep and steep it is, with a centralized haul road network available as well. So what I can do is navigate over here on the left-hand side and go to Haul Road AI. What that'll do is, since the model has already been ran or has been run on this particular data set, you can see that it automatically will generate these haul road center lines here. So if I zoom in to these haul road center lines, you'll see my trucks driving along here based on the data, but you'll see these big old haul roads here, and you'll see my haul road AI trying to pick up on where these center lines are actually located. So you can see if I hover over each one of these little segments here, I've got a length which is roughly 5 meters in length. It's got different information associated with that. And because it's doing those calculations, we can then utilize a lot of the tools over here on the left-hand side to actually be able to see a lot of that information projected, right? So I've got my haul roads here, but now I want to see what the grade of those haul roads look like. And so now I can easily turn that on and see, and if I want to customize it to a certain grade percentage that I have on my particular site, I can do that as well here. So if I wanted to change this from 4 to 6, you can see that it dynamically changes and dynamically updates the model accordingly based on the data that it has available to it. I can also use these slider bars as well. So if I slide these to their corresponding different values, I can get see those values change within there. And if I hover over, you can actually see what that grade percentage is here. You can see that in both 2D and in 3D as well. So up to you to how you want to visualize that. At the same time, too, we can do things such as visualize crossfall, which is the cross slope of these particular haul roads as well. So you can see here we've got our arrows associated. If I navigate to 3D and you want to kind of visualize it more, you got all these arrows pointing in different directions. What does that mean? If you turn it over to 3D and turn on this animation feature, you can actually then start to visualize the different cross slopes and seeing, whether it's water drainage or whether it's, understanding the slopes of these roads for, especially for intersections and turning radiuses, actually being able to visualize that here. The next one we can do is road width. So this is very important, especially if any of you guys have autonomous sites out there, is making sure that our roads are at the adequate width for the trucks that are traveling down them, especially if they're dual lane. And so you can see here, it's doing a nice end-to-end projection here of the road, and then measuring that distance as well. So you can see here, I've got some different varying widths of haul roads as I go throughout my site. And like I mentioned earlier, right, these are all customizable. They're all ever changing. So if I can change these real quick here, I guess all my road widths are pretty high. But you can see here as I go up, I can automatically change those to meet the needs of my site. Last but not least is safety berms. So I think it's pretty much standard all across the world that we have some sort of regulations on safety berms for haul roads and for areas that have steep drop-offs. And so what we can do here is really the AI is going through and picking up on these safety berms as best as it can here. So you can see here on the left-hand side of the road, this safety berm height is being calculated and being addressed and being profiled with this line on either side of the haul road network. The tool will look for safety berms on either side. So you know that sometimes we don't have safety berms on, let's say, the pit wall side. It'll still try to draw something. But the idea here, because some roads do have dual sides, some don't. But the idea here is that the AI is trying to pick up on where that safety berm might be. But you can see as I navigate through my different areas here where they have safety berms, the tool does a really good job of picking up on the profiles of those safety berms as well. We also got a couple of new models in here. So we've got pothole model, which looks at, and if I zoom out, you can kind of see the heat map here of where different potholes might be. We've also have rutting, spillage, and turn radius. So turn radius is a good one as well. If I highlight here, so we have, especially for autonomous sites or just sites around the world, there is a lot of regulation when it comes to the designing of these haul roads. And so if I were to highlight here, and you can see this different, so this is the turning radius of this certain segment right here, of this particular intersection, this segment right here. If I turn on this little eye right here, you can kind of see, in more of a technical term of what it's trying to do. And that's really determine that radius of that turn right there, as you can see, utilizing this equation. So you can see that this is what these circles represent. If I turn this back on, it's representing that equation, representing that turn for this particular haul road right here. Like I mentioned earlier, pothole and rutting, it's not visually appealing in this one, right? This pit is actually pretty good for potholes. There's only a couple here. I'll jump back out here just to jump to a different quarry that has a little bit more involvement when it comes to it. And so you can see here, if I turn back on the haul road AI model, which will just take a second here, and I turn on the potholes. If I run into a particular area, this has a lot more issues when it comes to potholes. So what it does is that it tries to draw a boundary around the area of the pothole. So you can see here, it's drawing a little polygon around it. It's determining that polygon's area, and then it'll color it according based on your parameter set over here. We can do the same thing with rutting and spillage. Rutting and spillage is very similar. So rutting is more of those tire tracks that are found within the roads, the ruts within the roads, and then we also have spillage, which is let's say rocks that fall off of our trucks if they're taking maybe a too steep of an embankment turn, or if they're So you can see here, if I zoom in, we've got some AI detected rutting. I will say too that these particular models as well are a little bit in beta. They're still being finalized, still being worked on, and so you'll see that it's not it's doing a pretty good job here. But that's something to be said though, is that we're constantly working on new models. We're constantly working on updates to these to make sure that they're doing the best to their ability. Spillage is the same thing. We talked about finding rocks. You can see it's picking up different equipment here as well, but might be having a rock right here along the different areas, along the different road networks. If I zoom in here, looks like we've got maybe something right here as well. So you can see how it's picking up on those different areas as well. Something we mentioned earlier is the reporting capabilities are very, very powerful within Trimble Mine Insights. So if you guys have specific areas of the haul road that let's say have stricter requirements than others, we can actually set that here. So let's say I turn on grade, and I have this report area right here that I want to focus in on, but I don't want to affect the rest of the model. I just want to have stricter tolerances on this particular area right here. Well, if I open up my tolerances for this report area, what I can do is actually change this on the go. And you can see here as it's changing, but it's not changing any of the other model. And then what I can do when that's associated, when I actually open up my report area here, and so I have a report as well right here. And let me just move my computer off to the side so I can actually see my buttons. But you can see here as I navigate through this report, it's all dynamic views, right? So I can change this particular view if I want to look at it from this angle, from this angle. And I also have all of my statistics associated with all of those different metrics that you were able to view earlier: crossfall, grade, road widths, berm heights, and the such. And actually, since I mentioned it earlier and I didn't grab a haul road report, I'll just reopen this real quick so you can see one with the report area that we mentioned. And so if I bring this open and I just navigate all the way to the end here, if I want to report on just that specific report area, I can do that here. So you can see if this report is entirely customizable. If you want to include that project summary, get rid of certain things, keep other things, you can have that all available here. And if I go back, you can see this haul road assessment of that particular report area and all of the statistics associated with that report area as well. So an easier way to dive into your specific haul road areas. The different sharing capabilities we have are pretty robust. So you can download this as a PDF. So if I generate this PDF, and that's something I haven't shown you guys yet, is that we can upload almost anything that comes out of import or export from Trimble Connect. So we can bring in data from Trimble Connect, we can export data from Trimble Connect, and so I can upload this to Trimble Connect if I wanted to have that report centralized and easily viewable between shareholders. We can also download this report as an HTML file. We can send it out as a private URL for our stakeholders to view, or we can send it as an email as well. We can use markup tools. And like I said, there's a lot of different customization when it comes to this reporting as well. What I mentioned earlier in terms of exporting, we can also, and what Riley mentioned about that infield action, right, is that this is all great and we want to be able to see, where we might have issues with our grade and where potholes exist. But how do we actually bring that into the field to work on, right? If we have machine control that we can upload files to, we can actually do that here with exporting these haul roads as a DXF, choosing our particular coordinate system we might be working in, and then being able to edit these haul road grade ranges, road widths, berm heights. You want to make sure that you have DXF with block and attributes associated, and we can download these and bring them into a machine that can then go out and fix in the field, right? So then we can maybe just view all the red areas, and he can go out on his daily work and making sure he's addressing whether it's low safety berms, whether it's those grade information, road widths, things like that. And that person can kind of work with a lot of the information that he has available instead of calling back to the office or something along those lines, or just trying to find things that look like issues. So great. So that's pretty much it for the haul road. I'll move into the couple of the other different workflows that Riley mentioned before within my demo project here. So one of the floor control things that Riley mentioned is pretty powerful here, of being able to actually visualize your different floor measurements. So this is purely visualization with a report that's associated with it. But are also just a really good, if you know that your floor of your particular mine or bench that you're working on has to be 332 meters, we can do that. We can visualize that up-to-date as-built versus that particular floor elevation to kind of visualize and colorize based on different parameters here. We can customize this colorization to see where we have high spots, where we have low spots, comparative to our particular floor elevation. You can also compare it against a different data set. So if you have yesterday's drone flight versus today's drone flight, we can compare that as well. And then if you have that design model, we can compare that as well. So a couple of different ways that we can do that here. And then I'll move into the stockpile inventory reporting. Actually, I'll show cut fill real quick because that's another very easy one to look at and understand. So cut fill. So just like with a lot of different softwares out there, being able to visualize volumetrics. So I'm using a DTM here or DSM, up to you guys which one you'd like to use. Currently, I'm comparing two data sets against each other. So I have a previous yesterday's data set, I have today's data set, and I'm comparing the differences between the two. But you can also use a surface to design against or to compare against as well with like this design layer right here. This is giving me my overall cut, fill, and then my net for the entire data set. I can also change the opacity. I can change my different colors for this cut fill range. And then I can also add these little report areas that will report on those individual areas nice and easy right here. And then I can have a report that showcases all of this as well. The last thing I want to showcase to you guys today within our that time that we have is also the stockpile inventory and reporting. So this is what we mentioned earlier about having 3 different ways to do your stockpile measurements and actually track and report those on a time-based metrics, is being able to not only utilize manual drawing, right? You can also utilize the AI assist, or you can have the AI do its automatic detection. So I'll kind of show you the different ways we can do that here. So down here at the bottom, I've got our measurements and stockpile measurements here. And so, like I said, we have the manual capabilities, which is exactly what it sounds like and what you might already be familiar with if you're doing this today. But that's manually drawing stockpile boundaries, right? So if I go up here to the top left, I can just create a particular stockpile boundary here, double clicking to end my particular stockpile. For all of the stockpiles available within Trimble Mine Insights, we have this material catalog that you can edit and that you can decide what your materials are called. We have our material management page. And so all stockpiles have to have an associated material type, i.e. a density, a price associated with it, up to you with what you want, to help develop and actually calculate whether it's tonnage that you're looking for, but then also that density as well. But we can calculate the volume. So this will sit here and calculate over a little bit of time here. But if I navigate to one of our other different stockpiles here, like this Echo Yankee one, which is, where's this one? Right here. What I can do is, change a couple of things if I want to, right? So like I said, I can use a different model. I can calculate a different bottom. You can see here, we can also upload a bottom if you have one as well. I can visualize what this particular stockpile looks like. So I basically create this little hover over that kind of shows the profile of this stockpile that I'm calculating. And then as you can see here, I've got stockpile volume, the material that's associated with that stockpile, the density, and the tonnage. I can compare this volume versus a different site or a different project as well. So if you want to see, volume changes over time or comparative to different projects, we can do that too. Riley mentioned, or one thing I'll bring up too is we can also bring in stockpile boundaries. So if you guys have boundaries that you would like to bring in automatically, you can do that here. But I wanted to kind of showcase to you guys something that Riley mentioned earlier, which is that assisted AI tool. So I'll kind of zoom out here and let the tool take over, but this is called the SAI tool or the segmentation AI tool. And what this will do is it'll actually take a screenshot of your particular work area that I zoomed into. And what it'll happen is that it takes that imagery, takes that screenshot, and then allows me to use this guided or use this AI assist. And so when this is done loading here in just a second, you'll see the kind of just a nice screenshot of my work area. But the idea here is that once I use this SAI tool, you'll see how it works and you'll see how it's more of a guided assist, right? A guided approach to utilizing AI instead of letting the AI kind of run whatever it wants or work on, grabbing whatever it thinks that is the stockpile. This is definitely more of a guided approach to to working with this particular data set here. So sorry about this, just a quick second. Maybe I'll take some time here since we're waiting for this to go over the poll answers. So it looks like we had some good participation. Thank you for that. About 20 answering within this particular webinar poll. So we can see that what is your biggest challenge regarding mine site infrastructure today? So we have ensuring haul road safety grades and berm heights was 35%, as well as with daily operational reporting. And then we had manual time consuming stockpile reporting, and then we had a few others that we had as well. And we'll see what those others are in a little bit. And then how do you currently manage haul road maintenance? So people are doing manual inspections and physical measurements, or they're using drones and scanners with manual desktop processing. And then some folks are also only performing maintenance when issues are reported as well. So I'll end this poll here so it maybe gets off of your guys' screen. But we'll be able to, and sorry, it wasn't sharing the results. So I'm doing that now here, and I'll move over this poll so we can see what maybe some of the other questions as well. So some of the others we had, what we're just getting into it. So great. But thanks for the participation. I appreciate it. But we can go back to our tool here, the SAI tool. So, like I mentioned earlier, a guided hand approach to AI-enabled stockpile management. So, what I'm going to do here is you guys see this oblong, weirdly shaped stockpile here. This is not your nice conal shaped stockpile from a conveyor or setup that an AI might be able to pick up. It's more of a obtuse, it's more unique, and the AI might not be able to decide what's the end of this and where it's the beginning. This is where that guided hand approach comes in to make it really quick and easy. So if I were to click on the top of this stockpile right here, you can see it's going to automatically draw a boundary for me, but it's just drawing the top, right? It's not drawing the entire thing. It's kind of choosing what it thinks is the stockpile and then drawing it for me. So let's say I want to grab this right-hand side right here, and I click on it. Whoa, and now it's grabbing way too much. What I can do is actually, this is where the guided hand approach comes in, right? I'm clicking to add areas, and then I can shift click to remove areas. So if I shift click this open area right here, it's going to draw that back. And you can see how it's recognizing and kind of learning exactly maybe where I want things and where I don't want things. So I can continuously do this to start adding more and more areas. And it starts to think and it starts to like understand what I do want and what I might not want. So I want this flat side right here. Please fill in the holes. And I'm slowly building this stockpile to meet my needs, right? So let's say I'm good with that. Looks good to go. I click on this plus button right here, or the check mark. I say it's a stockpile, and if I give it a material type, and then I can convert it to my inventory, and you can see it right here. So this Papa uniform, I can do this with other ones. So I can do this with this little skinny one right here. Grab that one, convert it, good to go. I can also, let me finish setting this up real quick. I can do this one over here with this more of like a pushed out stockpile right here. So you can see how it grabs most of it. It didn't grab a little bit over here. And then now I can try to pull it back a little bit and start to work and get it to where I would like it to be. I can convert that as easily as possible. So you can see here, if I go back in and zoom in, this is the one I created earlier, but you can see how it does a pretty good job of kind of associating that stockpile and grabbing the edges and grabbing those boundaries. I can show you a couple of the other ones that I've done earlier. So this big one right here is something that I did earlier as well. We've got these ones over here. We've got this one right here. So a couple of the different stockpiles that I've grabbed with that SAI tool, utilizing it to actually grab these stockpiles for me, more of a guided hand approach, like we mentioned earlier. So something very cool and neat that's available within Trimble Mine Insights. If you find yourself doing a lot of that stockpile inventory management that becomes burdensome with clicking boundaries and getting all of that, definitely something we can help out with here. Like we mentioned earlier, we can have all these stockpiles available to us. If I go to this stockpile history, you can see here, I can choose all of my different stockpiles and I can actually see the history associated with those stockpiles. So you can see here, I made the same stockpile on 9/24 to 12/8, and you can see I've got volume, I've got different volume changes, I've got different tonnages, I've got different, maybe a price history as prices fluctuate between your different commodities or stockpiles that you're working with, but you can see that graphed over time. You can also export out this as well. So we can export out all of these different stockpiles available to us, including a bunch of different information. Like I said, it's very easy to turn on pages, turn off pages, change the views of our different stockpiles. But you can see here how easy it is to report on all of these different stockpiles available to us in a nice stockpile site sheet, and as well as individually with these images as well. If I back out here and I show you this inventory dashboard, this is where we were talking about earlier with managing all of those material types. So let's say you have multiple materials on site that you're utilizing, let's say in more of a quarry environment where this material is our product that we're selling, or even in a mine environment where we might have different stockpiles of different ore, whether it's, particular leach ore or mill ore or something along those lines. We can stockpile that and have that associated information here. So things like the density, let's say a price if you're in a commodity-based business like a quarry, or you could even set this to be a cost, right? Whether it's a cost in a mine, like to move that material or to process that material as well. You can also edit the price history edit the prices of all of these material types. So let's say you can actually view this price history. So let's say you do a price adjustment every quarter or every 6 months. You can actually see that price history change over time to see your stockpile change over time, that value of that stockpile as well. And if I go into the inventory reporting, you can see here, I've got my total volume per site. I've got all of my different stockpiles here on the different dates. So this is your comprehensive inventory reporting. I've got volumes, I've got weights, I've got different reports I can calculate here as well. You can change different to see different individual stockpiles. You can do different date ranges. So this is all of your inventory reporting that you would need within one graph right here. Great. So that's actually the last thing I'll actually show you guys is that block model visualization. So we've got a nice query here over on the side, and I'll actually showcase all of the different information that you can bring in to help supplement the analytical tools within Trimble Mine Insights. So you can bring in 2D DXFs, 3D DXFs, drawings, KML files, point measurements, and then block models as well. So typically metal mines tend to have block models for a lot of their attribute aggregation information here. But what we can do is we can actually bring that in as a CSV. And then because, this is based on a browser, right? It's not necessarily the most robust, desktop application like some of our third-party mine softwares might be to visualize a block model in its entirety. What we'll do is we'll split that block model, we'll limit that block model to a certain polygon area to help retain, and increase performance basically. So what I'm going to do is I can look at this Oscar Victor over here on the right-hand side, and then I can actually view what that block model looks like here. And so you can see it's bringing up that block model. I've got air blocks here. I've got blocks above, where I'm actually at. So I can see the block model that I have here. I can navigate between the different polygons that I have associated as well. And then this is where you can actually visualize and customize. So if I want to do it by elevation, I can do that. If I want to do it by volume, if I want to color by specific property. So this one I can color by aluminum oxide here. And so you can see here that I can change these different parameters as well. And what maybe is a little bit easier to view is I can take off the top so we can view maybe what this looks like with the actual benches here. So I can take that off and then I can see, my progress within maybe a design file that I might have. But I can color by any property that's within this particular block model as well. So definitely something to help, aid in a lot of the site analytics and a lot of the site operations tools available to Trimble Mine Insights into the operators that would be using this product as well. So that's pretty much it for our live demonstration here. Like I mentioned earlier, one thing I'll mention as well is that, if you've got some wonky haul roads, the haul road AI is picking up weird things, we do have the ability to edit these haul roads within the package as well. Something we're looking at as well is being able to bring these haul roads out into a package like TBC, using the ortho photo to, let's say, create your perfect haul roads, and then bringing that back in to run it against the model again, utilizing those CAD lines as, let's say, a perfect world scenario to kind of get, let's say, the best product available. So a couple of different enhancements that we're looking into here to help bring, this to fully life, let's say. But that's, like I said, this is all I have associated with our particular live demonstration segment. I saw that there was maybe a couple of questions in the chat here. when it comes to the stockpile, we've had some chat questions here for stockpiles and maybe a couple of the others. But if you guys have any questions available, feel free to shoot them in here, and we'll be able to answer them accordingly. So, if you guys want to type any questions into the Q&A portion, we'll be able to answer those. I think you're on mute, Riley.
Maybe I'll read some questions out for you.
Yeah,
This one
sure.
question from Adil is what kind of data or what kind of data do we need to use Mine Insights?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I probably should have gone over that. What can I bring in here? So we've got new project here in the top left-hand corner. So I'll kind of run through a couple of different ways that you can bring in data within Trimble Mine Insights. So first and foremost, we have a photogrammetry engine within Trimble Mine Insights. So if you don't have any sort of aerial photogrammetry processing, let's say you're a customer that wants to buy a drone for the first time, but wants to use Mine Insights to kind of get some more analytics out of it, we have the ability to process that data within Trimble Mine Insights. So we have the ability to bring in that raw imagery, assigning it to a site. If you have GCP data associated with it, you can bring that in here. We've got a couple of other processing tools associated here. We can run all of these models as well. That's something to be said, is that almost all of the models can be run after the fact. So you don't have to run them. You don't have to use the photogrammetry engine to run them. You can run them after the fact. But you can turn them on if you want to run them concurrently to kind of save you some time as well. And so, if I were to, let's say, bring in this particular test project right here, all I'm going to do is I can drag and drop those files in here. So you can upload them from a local drive, but like we mentioned earlier, the Trimble Connect functionality does a great job of being able to look at your projects. Oops, that's the wrong one. Trimble Mine Insights. All my demo data here, and I can bring in a lot of that demo data within from Trimble Connect. So have it all housed in one area, so you know you're working with the latest files. Make sure you have all your audit trails associated with it, easily shareable capabilities within Trimble Connect. But we can bring that data within, and so here, if I open up this folder, it's just going to load all these different photos that I have from this particular drone flight. But you can see here, I've got all of these different photos, and I can bring those into Trimble Mine Insights to then upload. So let's say I just bring in one here. I don't want to do that. I'll just bring in one for you guys to kind of see the process. But if I bring in, I guess I got to bring in 10. 1 sec here. Let me get back in here. But if I bring in this data, you'll be able to kind of see what the process looks like. It basically she's going to ask me to review the photos, review GCP locations if I have them as well. But the idea here is that I can bring in a lot of this data associated with it. And then what it'll happen is it'll ask me to review those, and then I can upload those, run the models on it, run all of that pre-processing we talked about earlier as well. So you can see here, it's just going to ask me, show me the area that I'm in, and then it'll also have those image locations, those image files here associated for me. If I hit upload and upload, it'll upload it to the actual project. The other way you can bring in data is via pre-processed data. So you can either from another photogrammetry software, such as TBC aerial photogrammetry, or Pix4D, or Trimble Stratus, or Propeller, or whatever other photogrammetry software. You can bring in your orthophoto, your DSM, your DTM, and a 3D model if you have associated with it. And if you look at here, you'll kind of understand the level of data that we're expecting to run these models on, in the level of accuracy and the level of detail that you'll get with the more data you upload, the better your models will be, right? And I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. So you can bring in all that pre-processed data from your photogrammetry engine of choice as well. And then last but not least, you can also bring in LiDAR data. So if you're flying LiDAR drones, taking it with terrestrial LiDAR scanners, you can bring in that LiDAR data as well by just utilizing and drag and dropping the georeferenced LAS or LAZ file here. That's something I'll make a quick point about as well, is that Trimble Mine Insights needs all of its data to be georeferenced. So that's something just to be aware of, is that the all of the data is associated with its particular area, and so it needs to be georeferenced. Something I'll bring up, because I brought that up though, is that we have a couple of different ways that you can edit your particular site. So this is me creating a brand new site where I wanted to dump that data into. And so we can create that site coordinate system a couple of different ways. We can either utilize a published coordinate system here, or you can utilize a local grid, which most of our customers that are in the mining space tend to have local grids. So you can drop in that Trimble JXL file from Trimble Business Center to utilize that local grid, or you can use a Proj 4 string, which is the same, kind of very similar to a local grid system, but it kind of just lays out those transformations as well. So you can see here, it's got, kind of that transformation information associated here. So I hope that answered your question, but we can either bring in that raw imagery to process on our own, or we can bring in that pre-processed imagery as well and upload that LiDAR data to utilize as well. So is there any other questions,
Oh,
Riley?
I think that was a very comprehensive answer.
Yeah, sorry.
Alex asked about webinars being available for download. Yes, so anyone who signed up for this will get an email in the next day or two with the link to the webinar recording. So in case you joined later, you had to drop off early, there'll be a webinar recording available. And no problem there. Then another question around have we validated the volume accuracy of the automatic stockpile generation? Maybe I'll take a stab, and Loudon,
Sure.
if I miss anything, you feel free to jump in. So we've validated this with several customers around the world and had them test and use the software to make sure it performs to the standards that they need. I do think this is a good point of maybe we create a white paper showing this, or some other information, because it's a valid question. How do you I think we're all in this society all trying to figure out how we validate AI outputs. So I think it's a good point and a good takeaway for us, that maybe we can create something more public facing for all of you to see the accuracy comparisons for some of these different tools. All right, and one more question, and feel free, everyone, we still have a few more minutes. If there's other questions or comments, feel free to type them in. Ethan asked a question here, and maybe I'll let you take this one, Loudon, since you were just demoing it. How does the stockpile tool work when the pile is against a barrier, such as like a wall or a face or something, right, where it's not just sitting out in the middle of the open? You're on mute.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry. That's a good point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So let me navigate to a particular area here. So I think that's a challenging problem everywhere, right? Because it's, if you're up against an abutment or anything along those lines, it's difficult to get a true volume because, let's say you're not able to actually draw your polygons down there. So what I would say to that is we do have, you have the ability to edit a lot of these polygons when it works against something. So if I were to navigate here, let's say, and this is maybe a close instance. I know it's not exactly what you're talking about here, but you can see how when I utilize this Stockpile AI tool, it's trying to bring in as much as possible, right? It's trying to decide based on my clicking of where it works. So I know this probably isn't exactly what you're mentioning, but with the data set I have available, this is kind of the closest thing I could probably help you with, is being able to edit this particular polygon around that abutment to make sure you're accurately representing that particular area. And so, but one of the other things that I think could help as well is if I go to my stockpile measurement tool here, and sorry for this bugging out real quick, let me back out so it gets rid of this. But if I go and I navigate in here, one of the things that might be able to help is if you have, let's say, a surveyed bottom of that particular area as well. So like I mentioned earlier, we can have different bottoms associated with this, right? So I know it doesn't really help against the abutment, but if you're worried about having that correct bottom, we can have that here. So whether it's a custom bottom, triangulated, or we can bring in that particular design layer for that bottom, that would help some with some of that accuracy as well. I would say personally, I would like to do, and let me bug out of that so it doesn't give you guys anything looking at this crazy message. one of the things that I don't know if that necessarily answers your question fully, and maybe Riley, you have a better answer than I did, but I would say that that's something that we can maybe verify and test. But I would say that utilizing those different bottoms as well as making sure that your stockpile polygon is as good as possible will give you the most accurate volume as well.
I think that was a good answer. Yeah, definitely. If you have like a structure that you know that's going to be there for a long time, create a kind of a design bottom for it that you can leverage every time you're going to calc that volume.
Yeah,
Okay, so it doesn't look like we've got any other questions that have come in, so appreciate everyone that did ask questions and for all of you that attended. So a shameless plug, we will have 2 more webinars coming up here in the coming months that cover the other 2 packages of Trimble Mine Insights. So stay tuned for invites for those. I think they'll be coming, the next one will be coming out shortly. And looking forward, hoping to see the same crowd in that one and hopefully a few more individuals. So feel free to tell your colleagues and share the invites.
great. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate the time and the discussion and the questions and answers and then the polls answers as well. So it's very enlightening and I appreciate it. But like Riley said, this product is also available for order from your local Trimble representative dealer. So if this is something you're interested in, and like Riley mentioned, we are doing customer trials, demonstrations, things like that as well. So feel free to reach out to your local Trimble distributor. This is also both available from the geospatial dealers as well as the civil dealers. So it's across our field systems area. So definitely something to reach out to if you have more questions or want to see a more in-person demonstration. So hope to hear from you guys soon and appreciate all of the feedback. Have a good one.
Take care, all. Thank you.